All right, so we are moving on to the project in Scrimba, and I'm gonna do this live before I go ahead and um continue. I'm not gonna do it, or I didn't watch the video at all. I'm just gonna do it live here. So first and foremost, I can go ahead and remove some of these props down here. Not remove, but we can just comment them out, and it's a lot of messy code here, but that's all right. And I want to go ahead and move the jokes back here. And for my card component, I want to move the IMG as a prop, the paragraph life lessons with Katie Zaffries as a prop. I want all of these to be props, and I can do that by just going here. And he already kind of laid these out, so I'll just go ahead and use what he gives me. PNG. Hold on, what's going on? Yeah, that's not how you do a prop. It's like that. Okay, so we have our image, our rating. I think we can use 5.0, but can't we just use a number? I guess we can just do... I'm going to use a number for this, and then I'll go back. And then for the review count, he's put 6. So by the way, when we're passing numbers through the props, we go ahead and we use object literals to let JavaScript know, or to let JSX know that we're switching to JavaScript. So then we can go ahead and say our country, isn't the country USA? It is USA. So we can say USA in all caps. And I don't know why it's still not doing the other view. Okay, so the title, and I wonder if it's using, no, it's not using all of that. So the title is going to be Life Lessons with Katie Zaffris. And then we can do our last thing, which is price. And the price is going to be 136. And now we have a prop for our card component, and then we can update these values accordingly. So if we go here into our card component, we can go ahead and call props, and then we can console.log our props, and we will notice that we will get, it should be our prop that we just created. So object. So now we get USA, and then we get all of the props inside of this props object that we just passed through this component here on our main JSX. So now if we want to go ahead and update it, we can go ahead and say, src, and then we can make this props.img, and that may not work, and that's because we're using a different path here. So I need to go back and see what path we were getting. So this was the path. I actually used an SVG since I'm doing this on my own. So now I can go back to the card component, and then I can, instead of doing that, just do props.img, and it should work accordingly. So we can just, another thing we can do is go ahead and say img, or destructure it by saying img, and instead of saying props.img, we can just say img, and it should work. Yep, and it works exactly how it's supposed to. So the reason why I won't do this is because let's say we declare a variable called name equals Nelly, and then we used name somewhere down here. So let's say for the alt text, we wanted to say something like name. So now the problem with this is we don't actually know which one's a prop and which one's just a variable. And I think we can just say let, just so that this can work. So we don't know the difference. But if we say props props.img, and instead pass the entire props. Now we know the difference between which one's a prop and which is something that we already set. So if we go back, we can set this back to props, delete this, and then we can go fill in the rest of the information. So here we can go ahead and set, I don't remember what he was setting here. Let's see, review count. Okay, so this 6 is actually a review count. So we can go here, we can say props.review count. Is that how we did it in our main JSX? It is. So what we can do here also is instead make it a string of 6 so that we can get it back in here as a string. So if we go back here, we'll get 6. And then if we say our review count is 8, we will instead get 8 there. And then the country, we want to go ahead and move that into there as well. So we'll just put this here for a second. And then we can say, oh, can't get it. We'll say props.country. And since it is the US of A, it'll work. But let's just say UK. And now we get UK here instead. So since it's the USA, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we need the title. So the title should be, is the title Life Lessons? Yep, the title is right here, Life Lessons with Katie Zephyrs. So we can do that. Say props.title, and then it'll stay exactly the same because we didn't change any text. And then the price, we can go ahead and say from, we can just run in props.price, and then we'll get something weird here. So props.price. So what's going to happen here is we're not going to get the $sign. So we run that. We don't get the $sign because we did not pass this as a string. We could either go ahead and turn this into a string and pass the $sign, or we could just put the $sign symbol right here and it'll work perfectly. So now all of this is being moved with props. So what's cool here is that we can go ahead and make a new card component. So we can paste that here, and then we get a new card component. And what I want to do here real quick is make them flex, or make this flexible so that we can go ahead and see them side by side. So now we get them side by side. And something that to note here is that I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but that's just the way that I can do that right now without using, I think the map method is going to make this easier without having to repeat components like this. But for right now, just do it this way. And if it doesn't change in the future, then that's fine. So we can go ahead and we can give this rating 5.0. The review count right here is going to be 30. It's from the USA. And then this basically says learn wedding photography. And then 125. So then all of that will update. And then we can go ahead and grab this image. So we can export this as a SVG, and then we can export it. And then we can go to our downloads, call this wedding, go here, and then we can move this into here. So now, or we could just move this into here. So we move that into there. And then now we can change the route to wedding, and it'll change accordingly. And that is so much easier than having to hard code another one. So now we get this. And something that we could also change is the text inside of that button. So here we could go to our button, and where is that button at? Oh, it's just a whole exported button. So we could go ahead and do this, and we can say button. And then we could write that button here again. And then we could also export this online button here. So we can export it. as an SVG, of course. So now we go here and then we can go to our downloads and we can say online. So this is online. So now we can move this here. That's where all of our SVGs are at. And then we can say instead online.svg. So close this out. And then now we can go ahead and refresh. Oh, we don't have to refresh it, refresh for us. And it should be online.svg. So that's because we haven't actually set our component yet. So go here, go into props.button. And then now we get online here and then sold out here. So that is really cool. And then if we wanted to make the last one, it would be even faster. So all we would have to do is copy this card component. And then of course we would need this mountain bike picture. We would need this text. I'm not even sure if this is full text. So let's see. Group mountain biking. And then we can grab this 50. And then it doesn't have anything up here. So there's actually something we can do for that. And I'll explain it in a second. So we can do this. The rating was 4.8. And then the SVG, we want to go ahead and get it. So we can go ahead and say SVG. Go ahead and grab that SVG. And then we can say bike. And then go ahead and do that. Move the bike in there. So now this is going to be bike.svg. And then when we go back to here, we're going to get that weird looking picture. And yeah, that sucks that we get it that. So what we can do here for IMG, let's see. What can we do here to fix it? So because that's just part of the Figma design, when we exported it, I think that's what we're getting exported. So let me see if that fixes it. Because it sucks that we get that back. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, that's weird. So go back here. See what we get. Yeah, it should give us this back. Bike 1. We'll just say it's a bike 1. Pass that here. So instead we can go over here into main.jsx and say bike 1. And okay, it went ahead and fixed it for us. So now we have the whole bike, and I want to go ahead. The rating is not a 5-star anymore. So rating is 4.8. The count's 2, 50 per person. I'm not sure why the rating hasn't changed. So let's say a rating of 2. Yeah, the rating's not changing, which is weird. Let's see here, 4.8. Oh, that was not what I wanted. Did I change the rating here? I might have left that out. So here, rating, yeah, I left that out. So what I can do here is say props.rating, and now we'll get all of our ratings uploaded correctly for us. One thing that's different here is that we don't have an image. So we can set that conditionally. So if we don't have the image, then we just won't display anything there. And the way to do that would basically be, there's more than one way to do it, but we could go to our IMG and props.button, and then we can wrap this inside of a curly brace. And then we can say props.img has to be true, and we'll run this, or and run this. So these both have to be true. So the prop has to be an IMG, or else it won't work at all. So if both of these things are true, then we'll get something. So if we'll go here, we see that it's still there because it's still true. But if we go ahead and remove our button, we see that we still get something. So let me go ahead and see. Button, so props.button, button indicating this has been sold out. So we used the wrong thing. It's button, and we see that there's no button here. So even if we go and we inspect, we'll see that the button just was not rendered onto the screen at all. But if we went ahead and we just said, hey, I just don't want anything to load up, it'll still load up. Even though the button doesn't exist here, it'll still go ahead and load up. But if we wanted to do this in a different way, we could go ahead and say style, and then we could wrap it inside of a curly brace, and we can say display. And then we could go ahead and say the display is going to be a ternary. I kind of forgot how I did it here. I'm going to look back for a second. Display props setup. Okay, so display props dot button. So if it's true, we'll say block, and if it's false, we'll say none. So now it will disappear again because it'll only display if the props button is true, and it'll be a block. Otherwise, it'll be nothing. So those are the two ways we can go ahead and do that. So now we see that we have all three card components in here. Even though in full screen it doesn't look as good, we have all the components in here and we rendered them onto the page, and all we had to do was use one component. We only had to create it once, and then we just passed through some props, and once we passed through those props, we could just go ahead and render them up without having to create an entirely new component. So that is really, really cool. I just wanted to go over that, but I'm sure that's what he's asking for here. So I think that's pretty much it.